Thank you. The reading for tonight is 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Parts of it are known as the love chapter. I'm reading it from the NIRV version, the Reader's Version. Suppose I speak in the languages of human beings or of angels. If I don't have love, I'm only a loud gong or a noisy cymbal. Suppose I have the gift of prophecy. Suppose I can understand all the secret things of God and know everything about him. And suppose I have enough faith to move mountains. If I don't have love, I am nothing at all. Suppose I give everything I have to the poor people. And suppose I give myself over to a difficult life so I can brag about it. If I don't have love, I get nothing at all. Love is patient. Love is kind. Does not want what belongs to others. It does not brag. It is not proud. It does not dishonor other people. It does not look out for its own interests. It does not easily become angry. It does not keep track of other people's wrongs. Love is not happy with evil, but it is full of joy when the truth is spoken. It always protects. It always trusts. It always hopes. It never gives up. Love never fails, but prophecy will pass away. Speaking in languages that had not been known before will end, and knowledge will pass away. What we know now is not complete. What we prophesy now is not perfect. But when what is complete comes, the things that are not complete will pass away. When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I had the understanding of a child. When I became an adult, I put away the ways of childhood. Now, we see only a dim likeness of things. It is as if we were seeing them in a foggy mirror. But someday, we will see clearly. We will see face to face. What I know now is not complete, but someday, I will know completely, just as God knows me completely. The three most important things to have are faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of them is love. Here ends the reading. I would like to share with you today about my junior high and senior high Sunday school teacher. So I really didn't mind going to Sunday school because I really liked Kenny. He was the father of 4 or 5 boys. The oldest was 4 years younger than I was. His wife was a really good golfer in the city. And Kenny was a hospital administrator, and he drove a really nice car. And he taught Sunday school. When Kenny was younger, he worked in the emergency room of the Cook County Hospital in Chicago. Pretty much a nightmare of a place. Sunday mornings, he would walk into our classroom, go behind the desk, look around the room, smile at each of us. And there was not usually too many. It was a very small church. And most got out of going to Sunday school. He would put his Bible down and whatever book we were supposed to be studying on the corner of his desk, sit down, fold his hands, and ask us what we wanted to talk about. He told us to call him Kenny, if that was okay with our parents. And he said he had a lesson in the book that he had brought along, if that's what we wanted to do today. And usually the class started out with us staring at him, because you didn't talk, at least not then. Then he would pick up his Bible, he would open it to his bookmark, and he would read a couple verses, and he would close it up, and he would look at us, and he would say, "These verses remind me of something that happened when I worked in the emergency room in Chicago." This is in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Chicago was an unbelievably big city to us. Then he would tell us a story. Lots of strange things happened in that emergency room, and I totally assume that they are all true because Kenny told them to us. There were stories of guns and gunshot wounds, sick and abused children, fighting and hugging, death and life, anger and reuniting, all kinds of joy and sadness. He had frightening and heartwarming stories. Kenny brought us there with him into the emergency room by including us in how he felt in these stories. I was, I guess, just full of love for this kind, caring man, and amazed that he could share his feelings with us. My dad was great, but he was very stoic, no feelings. You could see how hurt and how badly he felt when things didn't go well. He would get this look in his eyes, and it really touched me. Sometimes I remember his eyes watering up when he told us the positive outcome of some stories with pretty bad beginnings. I remember him saying, "Oh, how I prayed when I needed more hands to stop the bleeding," and a nurse would come in. "Oh, how I prayed," and a friend would arrive to be with a mother when I had to tell her that her child didn't make it. Oh, how I prayed when the sun started to come up and I was exhausted, and another ambulance pulled in, and someone would show up with a cup of hot coffee for me. He would lead up to these statements about prayer by setting the horrible stage with what kept arriving in ambulances and taxis and junker cars. Kenny was fascinating, and I couldn't wait to go to Sunday school the next week to hear him share. Maybe I heard the same stories over and over again, but it must not have bothered me. I only remember that I wanted to be like Kenny, somehow. For sure not in a hospital. That's not for me. I definitely don't have the personality or the stomach to be in a hospital. But I wanted to make a difference somehow, and I wanted to know that I could call on God to help me. Sometimes we would have a really small class, actually pretty often because it was a small church, and we would actually share some of our hopes and dreams. And Kenny would ask interested questions and encourage us in our future. But what he really did for me was show me a faithful person and how their lives could look. I sort of thought that believers were destined to be unfun people. They were to be serious, and I wasn't really sure what I thought about that. But I wanted to have Jesus as my friend, someone I could call on. But I didn't so much want to have followers of Jesus that I knew as my friend. But Kenny seemed to be a believer and also adventuresome and interesting and fun. To me, his greatest gift was to let me know that I could have fun and be adventurous and be a follower of Jesus. It was rather eye-opening for me. He would tell us to figure out what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives and not be too worried about what other people told us they thought we should do with the rest of our lives, but he never spent much time on that. And I think I liked that he told us how he lived and how he worked, and most importantly, how he believed in God. He didn't tell us he was great. He told us the reality of life from the emergency room in Chicago and how God was so important in his life. I wanted to be like him. I wanted to be a follower of Jesus like he was. I wanted to live the life God has given me with some gusto and fun and adventure and joy. Kenny encouraged me to do that by the example he showed me of his life. One time when I ran into him after I was all grown up, I told him what a great influence he had been on me and on my outlook on life. He smiled his great smile and he said, It's a great, big, wonderful world God created for us. Aren't you glad we know that? I was really glad I told him, because not long after that, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and died a short time later. So my words to you are to realize that this is a great, big, wonderful world God has given us to enjoy. Let's tell and encourage those around us about this God, maybe with words, but for sure, let's show them that love is patient and kind and gives and takes and shares. Even though we don't get everything about God, we read that in the 1 Corinthians chapter 13 also. It says, now we see but a poor reflection as in a dim and foggy mirror. Then we will see face to face. Now I know in part. Then I will know fully, even as I am fully known. It's called faith, believing without seeing clearly. And now remain these three, faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Live in God's love. Let others see it in you and be encouraged by you and your faith and your walk with Jesus. Words are wonderful and necessary, but I do think actions and the way we live our life can speak too. So let's get talking. Amen.